morning. Let's take a look at your spreadsheet for the Chapter 5 submission to the My IT Lab system. So there's a couple steps that we want to review together. Oh, you know what? I'm going to pull them up on my screen. Let's start with step 10. So in step 10, they want you to use the count if. So I'm going to take a look then at your spreadsheet that you submitted. I downloaded it from the My IT Lab system. And in step 10, we're working in cell A1, and you have it almost exactly right. You have the count if. We're counting the occurrences in the state column, so you've named that correctly. And because we're looking for text, it goes in quotes, but you do not use the equal sign. So I'm going to backspace over that equal sign. It's just KS, so that we're counting all of the occurrences of KS in the state column. So get rid of the equal sign, make that correction. That'll give you the points back for step 10. For step 11, you're also very close. You have the right function name, which is count ifs. So we're counting if the criteria is met, but we're doing more than one, so we call them ifs, plural. So we're counting ifs in the cost column, the number of occurrences where we find the number 4. And this time it doesn't go in quotes because it's a number. Excel can recognize that number. Only text goes in the quotes. But the part that you're missing is that, so we're counting that condition, but we also want to find only the Kansas colleges. So we have to add, we have to tell Excel to also look in the state column, there it is, state, to find, oops, I'm going to do a double click, to find the criteria KS for Kansas, and then another comma. Remember, so up here in Chapter 5, we've now been working with functions for a while, and we use the comma to separate out the parts, or you could think of them as like the inputs to the function. So we're saying count all the occurrences if the state is KS and the cost is 4. And then we're going to add that to all the number of occurrences where, and again, we're going to add state, there it is, I'm going to double click, is KS, comma, and in the cost column, the number is 5. So that should be all of the corrections that we need. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, fingers crossed. There's our result 10. You had asked about that result being 10. All right, so now we're going to move on down to, that was step 11. We're going to move on down to steps 16, 17, and 18. And in each of those, you actually have a correct build, but the system is being very picky. So in this chapter, we're applying the use of names. And so here on step 16, I'm going to click the little arrow to see. That'll tell me more about what it didn't like in the results. So here I can see My IT Lab was looking for the Dmax function in the column in the group of data, the range of data, A13 through R54. And then we're going to find the max using here, B7. That's what we need to take a look at for then the data. All right, so over to your worksheet, we're working in cell B8 for this step. And do you see how you have Dmax, you have the correct data range, you have the correct range, the database of information, the correct range of data, and you used the word points, which works in Excel, but My IT Lab system, this is where it doesn't want you to use the word points. It wants you to use the actual cell. So I'm going to click on B7. And so you did it right in the real world, but we have to satisfy the My IT Lab system, and it wants B7. It wants it here in this cell. If I go down to B9, it's that same correction. I'm going to remove points and add B7. You can either click on it, oops, no quotation marks, B7, enter, and then here in this one, you actually forgot to put it in altogether. So I'm going to click after the comma, or sort of in between the commas, and then I'm going to add B7, and that'll be what it's looking for. That's steps 16, 17, and 18. The last one to correct is step 19, which is way over here. cell L9, and now I have to remind myself what it wants. Oh, okay, in this one, it's actually the opposite effect. So so again, you did it right, but the My IT Lab system is looking for something very specific. So you're telling Excel, hey, find the highest, the max of this column. And that column, if we go over and look at it, is called the points column. Here's our points column, and that's exactly what you're referring to. But in this case, the My IT Lab system wants you to use the name points. So I'm going to start typing in PO, there it is, points. And I'll double click to accept it. And in this case, it wants you to use the name. Now, unfortunately, there's no way to know that ahead of time. So if you need, sorry, I'm going to hit enter just to make sure it works. Okay, there's no way for you to know this ahead of time. Often they give you clues in the instructions. So then if it does deduct the points and you can't figure out why, then I highly recommend that you go into the results, click the arrow just to see what it didn't like about your submission so that you can make a correction. And this, although it's unfortunate, it does replicate real life. Sometimes I build a beautiful spreadsheet, I turn it into my manager, and he or she wants me to tweak, they want it their way. So I have to change things to be the way they want it. So it is good that we're using the My IT Lab system, and keep emailing me. You're doing really well in class.